We choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. Khalil Gibran. Every decision in life is like a seed planted in the soil of the future. When a person chooses perseverance over giving up, they are quietly sowing the seeds of pride and happiness. When a person chooses to live sincerely, to love and cherish what they have, they are building the foundation for peace of mind. Conversely, when we choose anger, envy, unrealistic expectations, or hasty decisions, we are also sowing the seeds of disappointment and suffering. One day, those seeds sprout, and we call them fate, when in reality, they are merely the results of choices made long ago. Humans do not react to reality itself. We react to how we perceive reality. Two people can stand in the same rain. One sees an annoyance, while the other feels freshness and poetry. The rain does not create the emotion. It is the perspective that creates it. And that perspective is shaped by choices of mindset, belief, and attitude accumulated over the years. Therefore, the joy or sorrow we feel today is often the echo of thoughts we have nurtured for a long time. Life is like a boat drifting on the ocean. The wind can change direction at any time. Waves can rise without warning, but the direction of the boat is largely decided by how the sailor steers the helm. We cannot control every event that occurs, but we can choose how we prepare for them. It is those quiet choices that will decide whether a trial becomes a valuable lesson or a source of suffering. If joy and sorrow are formed from our choices, then the future does not lie entirely in the hands of chance. Every positive thought, every kind action, and every time we bravely face difficulties is an investment in our future happiness. Today is exactly where we choose the emotions that will appear tomorrow. And when we understand this, we will live more consciously, with more love, and cherish our every small decision, for they are quietly writing the story of our lives. You'll have bad times, but it'll always wake you up to the things you weren't paying attention to. Robin Williams. People often view difficulties as uninvited guests. They appear when we least expect them, upsetting well-laid plans, testing our patience, and sometimes causing us to doubt ourselves. Yet, if we observe life through a deeper lens, we realize that adversity does not only bring pain, it is also a special teacher, quietly showing us the truths that comfort often conceals. When the sky is always blue, people rarely notice the value of the sunshine. Only when clouds roll in and darkness falls do we realize how precious the light truly is. Life operates in a similar way. Peaceful days accustom us to the presence of so many good things that we take them for granted. We forget the value of health until our bodies fall ill. We forget to cherish those who love us until distance or loss appears. We forget our own strength until we are placed in circumstances that force us to stand up and keep going. Difficulties have the power to shift the focus of human perception. When everything goes smoothly, the mind is often swept away by external goals, success, fame, recognition, or endless desires. But when facing challenges, the fog of busyness gradually clears. We begin to see more clearly what truly matters. The small things once forgotten suddenly hold deep meaning. A sincere word of encouragement, a family meal, a healthy body, or a peaceful morning can sometimes become priceless gifts that we never paid attention to before. In our most pressured moments, we discover a courage we never knew we possessed. In our loneliest days, we realize who truly stays by our side. In our most painful failures, we learn lessons that 100 pieces of advice could never fully convey. Remarkably, the greatest challenges in life often become the source of our deepest growth. Looking back, many realize that the periods that caused them the most suffering were the very turning points that changed their way of thinking, living, and perceiving the world. The scars of life are not just signs of hurt. They are proof that we have overcome. When difficulties arise, instead of just asking, "Why is this happening to me?" perhaps a more useful question is, "What is being revealed to me through this experience?" For every challenge carries a message. And so many times in life, it is the storms that help us see the stars that a clear sky never gave us the chance to notice. The truth is, you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. Life is a crazy ride, and nothing is guaranteed. Eminem. Humans always have a quiet but powerful desire, the wish to control the future. We make plans, set goals, and calculate every step in the hope that life will unfold exactly as we expect. Yet, the more we grow, the more we realize a profound truth. The future is not a map already drawn. It is like a vast, fog-shrouded ocean where no one can fully see the way ahead. The only certainty is uncertainty. People often feel anxious, not because of what is happening in the present, but because of what might happen in the future. The mind constantly creates scenarios, predicts risks, and tries to seek absolute guarantees. But the paradox of life is that the tighter we try to grasp certainty, the easier we are disappointed. For life does not operate according to anyone's wishes. A chance encounter can change an entire destiny. A small decision can open an unexpected new chapter. And sometimes, what we once viewed as a failure becomes the door to the most precious opportunities. Life is like a train passing through unexplored lands. If we knew every turn, every landscape, and every stop in advance, that journey would lose much of its magic. It is the unexpected things that bring color to life. An ordinary day can become the most memorable. A stranger can become an important companion. A seemingly dark event can bring lessons that change our entire view of the world. Interestingly, we often only understand the meaning of many events when looking back at the past. Pieces that were once fragmented and confusing eventually connect into a complete picture. Standing in the middle of the rain, we only see falling water droplets. But looking back from a sufficient distance, we realize that very rain watered the garden of our growth. It is not about living in fear of the uncertain, but learning to make friends with uncertainty. For uncertainty is not the enemy of life. It is part of the very nature of life. When we accept that tomorrow is an unwritten page, we are less imprisoned by worry and learn to cherish the present more. Instead of trying to control everything, we learn to prepare as best as we can, then bravely step forward with the belief that we are strong enough to face whatever lies ahead. For ultimately, the beauty of life does not lie in knowing exactly what will happen tomorrow. That beauty lies in the ability to walk through the unknown with a calm heart, an open mind, and a constantly kindled hope. It is surprise that makes the journey vivid, and it is uncertainty that makes each present moment a precious gift. It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. Ralph Waldo Emerson. One of the strongest human needs is not power or money, but belonging to a group. We want to be recognized, liked, and accepted. Many unconsciously adjust their thoughts, emotions, and actions to align with the crowd, even when they know in their hearts it does not reflect who they truly are. Living by the world's opinion is the path of least resistance. It is like a leaf floating with the current. There is no need to struggle, no need to face doubt or criticism. The crowd brings a sense of safety because responsibility is divided among everyone. When everyone thinks alike, no one feels they have to face the loneliness of being different. On the opposite extreme, living alone and keeping one's own views in isolation is also not too difficult. When there is no social pressure, it is easy to maintain one's beliefs. Like a candle burning in a closed room, that flame does not have to fight any wind. But the true value of independence is not measured in silence. It is only tested when we step into the midst of opposing opinions, judging eyes, and the invisible pressures of the collective. The ability to keep one's inner identity without needing to prove it to anyone. A psychologically mature person is not swept away by the noise of the crowd, but does not despise the crowd either. They listen, observe, and learn. But the final decision still belongs to their own conscience and awareness. That image is like a mountain standing amidst strong winds. The wind can blow from 4 directions, bringing countless noises and changes. But the mountain does not need to fight back. It simply stands firm. True strength lies not in conquering others, but in not losing oneself amidst external influences. Such a person does not depend on applause to feel worthy, nor do they collapse from the disapproval of others. They understand that the opinion of the crowd can be right or wrong, just as the opinion of an individual can be right or wrong. Therefore, they do not idolize the collective, nor do they idolize themselves. They keep their minds wide enough to receive new perspectives, yet firm enough not to lose their foundation. The most admirable thing is the perfect sweetness that the quote emphasizes. For many may keep their own views, but live in anger, defensiveness, or a craving to be proven right. That is still a form of dependency on others. True freedom appears when we can stand in the crowd without being swept away, while not being obsessed with opposing the crowd. They are as serene as a deep lake, where winds only ripple the surface, but cannot stir the waters below. It is not about separating oneself from the world, but entering it with an intact soul, amidst countless voices, still hearing the voice of conscience, amidst countless pressures, still keeping inner peace, and in the noisy crowd, still carrying the silence of one who knows who they are. That is the deepest form of freedom a human can attain. There are 2 tragedies in life. One is not getting your heart's desire. The other is getting it. George Bernard Shaw. For most of our lives, we live by goals ahead of us. We believe happiness lies at a certain milestone. A dream job, an ideal love, a beautiful house, a large bank account, or an admirable position in society. The mind constantly paints bright scenarios, convincing us that if we only reach that destination, all empty spaces in our soul will be filled. It is that very desire that drives us forward. The first tragedy appears when the dream shatters. When what we have pursued for years does not come true, the feeling of loss comes not only from losing a goal, but from losing a part of our own identity. Many have tied their self-worth to a certain success. Thus, when failure occurs, they not only think they have failed to reach their desire, but also begin to doubt who they are. This is why great disappointments often cause wounds far deeper than the actual value of the event itself. But the second tragedy is what surprises many. When finally achieving what they have long desired, people often experience a brief moment of joy. Afterward, a feeling of emptiness quietly appears. The mountaintop they once thought was heaven turns out to be merely a stopping point. What was once seen as the answer to every problem suddenly becomes a normal part of life. Psychology calls this hedonic adaptation, the human ability to quickly adapt to achievements and return to a baseline level of emotion. Like a climber who spends years conquering a peak, throughout the journey, the mountain is the meaning of life. But standing at the peak, they suddenly realize the sky is still as vast as before. The questions in their heart remain, and life does not suddenly become perfect. What is lost is not the mountain, but the illusion that the mountain would bring absolute fulfillment. Happiness does not lie entirely in having or not having something. Lasting happiness lies in how we live during the journey of pursuing it. If the entire meaning of life is placed on a single goal, we will easily suffer in both failure and success. Failure leaves us disappointed, while success makes us realize that what we sought is not where we thought it was. Let us pursue our goals with all our enthusiasm, but do not surrender our entire happiness to the final result. Love the journey as much as the destination. Let our aspirations become the means that help us grow, not a cage that imprisons the joy of the present. For ultimately, what makes a life meaningful is not how many things we coveted that we possess, but the person we become in the process of pursuing them. Understanding this, we will no longer view success as heaven or failure as hell. Both are merely teachers, leading us to a greater truth. Peace does not lie in what we hold, but in the growth of our soul. There is nothing wrong with cherishing a simple life. JRR Tolkien. In a fast-moving world where success is often measured by status, wealth, and social recognition, choosing a simple life is sometimes misunderstood as a lack of ambition or desire. The value of life does not lie in the complexity of what we own, but in the ability to find meaning in what we have. Modern humans are often swept up in an invisible race. Upon reaching one goal, they immediately aim for the next. Possessing something they desired, they begin to covet something bigger, newer, and more impressive. Like a traveler constantly looking at the horizon, to the point of forgetting the beauty of the path right beneath their feet. Because of this, many have everything to be happy, but rarely feel fulfilled. A simple life does not mean giving up growth or denying dreams. Simplicity is knowing how to distinguish between what is truly necessary and things that only weigh down the soul. It is the ability to find joy in moments that many others overlook. A peaceful morning, a meal with family, a sincere conversation, or the feeling of satisfaction after a day lived true to one's values. These things are not glamorous, but they are the foundation of lasting peace. People often underestimate the power of the familiar. We are easily attracted by the rare and novel, while the closest things quietly nurture our spiritual lives every day. Like air, we only realize its value when it is gone. A simple life helps people slow down enough to see the small gifts that life constantly offers. Like a garden, some spend their whole lives chasing flowers in far-off places, while the garden in front of them is in full bloom without them ever noticing. Those who appreciate a simple life are not lacking the ability to rise, but are those who understand that happiness does not necessarily lie somewhere else. Sometimes it is present in the most ordinary things. Remarkably, simplicity often goes hand in hand with inner freedom. When no longer overly dependent on comparison, admiration, or standards imposed from the outside, we begin to live more truthfully with ourselves. They do not need to prove their self-worth through symbols of success. They understand that a meaningful life is not decided by how others view them, but by the sense of peace when facing themselves every day. It is not about giving up ambition, but about not losing the ability to enjoy simple things on the way to pursuing them. For many spend their entire lives searching for happiness, only to finally realize that what they sought was always present in the most ordinary moments. A warm cup of tea in a quiet morning, the laughter of loved ones, a serene heart after sincere efforts. These things may not make great stories in the eyes of the world, but they are the bricks that build a life worth living. There is nothing wrong with cherishing a simple life. On the contrary, in a world that always encourages people to want more, knowing when is enough, cherishing the present, and finding joy in small things is perhaps one of the highest expressions of wisdom. For ultimately, the richest person is not the one who owns the most, but the one who feels content with what they have. You get what anybody gets. You get a lifetime. Neil Gaiman. We often spend a lot of time comparing what we do not have with what others possess. This person has more money. That person has more opportunities. Another seems luckier. The habit of comparison makes people unconsciously believe that life is an unfair distribution. But the strange thing is that amidst those countless differences, we are all receiving the exact same fundamental gift, a finite amount of time to exist, feel, love, learn, fail, grow, and leave our own mark. Humans often live as though life were an infinite resource. We delay important things, wasting precious days on unnecessary worries or endless races. We act as if we always have plenty of time ahead. But the truth is, time is the most democratic asset in the world. With each passing day, rich or poor, famous or anonymous, successful or failed, everyone loses the same amount of time. No one can buy back a lost day, nor can anyone bargain with the clock of life. Life is like being handed a blank book at birth. No one knows exactly how many pages that book will have. Some get more, some get less. But what matters is not the number of pages, but the story written upon them. A long but empty book is not necessarily more meaningful than a short but inspiring one. The value of life is not measured by the length of years, but by the depth of experiences and the meaning of what we create in the time we have. We cannot choose where we are born, nor can we fully control what happens, but we can decide how to use the life we are given. Each day is a deposit of time in the account of life. The question is not how much we have, but what we are investing it in. Some use their lives to nurture gratitude, build meaningful relationships, and pursue lasting values. Others let the years slip away in resentment, rivalry, and regret. Life is given to everyone, but how each person lives with that gift is what makes the difference. It is not that everyone is the same, but that everyone is given the same fundamental opportunity to turn time into meaning. Life does not promise that everything will be fair, but it gives each person a span of time to choose who they will become. The most precious thing you own is not what lies in your hands, but life itself unfolding day by day. And perhaps the greatest wisdom is to realize that while we are busy searching for other gifts, the greatest gift was given long ago: the opportunity to fully live a lifetime. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. F. Scott Fitzgerald. We tend to judge others based on what we see in the present, but forget that each life is the result of countless different circumstances, experiences, and conditions that no one can fully observe from the outside. We see the action, but rarely the journey that shaped it. Judging others often stems from an unconscious illusion that if we were in their shoes, we would act better. we are not truly in their shoes. We carry our upbringing, the opportunities we had, the lessons we were taught, the people who supported us, and the doors that once opened for us. These things are like water lifting a boat, yet many believe that height is entirely the result of their own strength. Life does not begin at the same starting line. Some grow up in love and encouragement, where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn. Others grow up amidst deprivation, hurt, or burdens that others cannot see. Some are given confidence from childhood, while others must spend years healing invisible wounds. When looking only at the final result, while ignoring the conditions that created it, judgment becomes easy, but is often unfair. Imagine two trees standing in the same field. One grows in fertile soil, receiving plenty of light and water. The other must take root in arid ground, battling strong winds and prolonged droughts. If we only look at their height and conclude which tree is better, we ignore the entire story behind that growth. The same is true for humans. What we see is only the top of the tree. The roots deep underground are what contain the secrets of each life. Interestingly, empathy does not make us weaker, but more understanding. When we realize that everyone is fighting battles we cannot see, the haste to criticize gradually gives way to sympathy. That does not mean every behavior is right or exempt from responsibility. It simply means that before passing judgment, we give others space to be understood. They do not view life through a black and white lens of absolute right and wrong. They understand that behind every choice, there are reasons. Behind every personality, there are stories. And behind every mistake, there are contributing circumstances. This very understanding makes the heart more open and the perspective fairer. It is not about stopping evaluation altogether, but learning to evaluate with humility, for no one truly knows all that another has gone through to become the person they are today. Realizing that the advantages we enjoyed might be things others never had the chance to receive, we become less arrogant in success and less harsh in judgment. Perhaps one of the most beautiful signs is the ability to look at others through the eyes of understanding rather than just the scales of criticism. For when life is viewed from the height of empathy, we realize that every human carries their own stories, and what they need most is sometimes not a judgment, but a bit of tolerance to keep walking. I want to stand as close to the edge as I can without going over. Out on the edge, you see all the kinds of things you can't see from the center. Kurt Vonnegut. Most people prefer to stand in the center, a place that is familiar, safe, and predictable. It is the land of habits, proven beliefs, and lifestyles accepted by the majority. There, humans face little danger, but also have little opportunity to see new horizons. The edge in the quote is a symbol of the boundary between safety and exploration. It could be a different idea, a bold decision, an untrodden path, or a perspective contrary to the crowd. Standing near the edge always creates a sense of insecurity, for with just one careless step, we might pay the price. Yet it is precisely there that our vision is widest. What is obscured in the center appears clearly from the rim of the boundary. The brain is programmed to avoid risk because risk means the potential for hurt. However, growth does not typically occur in a completely safe zone. Just as muscles only strengthen when challenged by weight, human awareness only expands when we dare to step to new limits. The greatest discoveries in science, art, or philosophy do not usually come from those who are merely content with what is already known. They come from those brave enough to look beyond familiar horizons. Imagine a person standing in the middle of a dense forest. From the center, they only see the surrounding tree trunks. But if they step to the edge of a cliff overlooking a valley, the entire landscape appears before them. Winding rivers, distant mountains, and roads never noticed before suddenly become clear. Life is the same. Many truths are only visible when we are willing to leave our familiar positions. The speaker wants to stand as close to the edge as possible without going over. This is exactly an expression of wisdom. Courage is not disregarding all danger. Courage is knowing how to approach the limit, to learn and expand one's horizon while remaining sober enough not to lose oneself. Many confuse courage with recklessness. A mature person understands that value lies in the balance between exploration and control. The same is true in spiritual life. Deep thinkers often dare to question what seems obvious. They do not accept every belief just because it is common, nor do they deny everything just to be different. They step to the edge of thought, where difficult questions and new perspectives arise. It is there that awareness expands and understanding deepens. Do not let fear imprison you forever in your safe zone. Be brave enough to approach the limits of your knowledge, experience, and capability. For the things that change life do not usually lie in the center of familiarity, but on the outer edges of discovery. Those who make a difference are not those who stand still in the crowd to feel safe, nor are they those who plunge off the cliff due to impulsiveness. They are those who know how to approach the edge of the unknown, maintaining balance and opening their eyes to horizons the majority have never seen. It is from there that great ideas, great turning points, and the greatest growth of life are born. Most people tiptoe through life, hoping they'll make it safely to death. Earl Nightingale. We are given life to live, yet many spend most of their time avoiding living. Instead of exploring, experiencing, and committing, they choose absolute safety as their ultimate goal. They step through the years cautiously, as if life were a sheet of thin ice that would shatter under their feet at the slightest slip. Fear is a natural part of the survival instinct. It helps humans avoid real dangers, but when fear becomes the driver of life, it no longer protects us, but begins to limit us. Many abandon their dreams for fear of failure. They remain silent for fear of rejection. They dare not love with all their heart for fear of being hurt. They dare not change for fear of instability. Bit by bit, their lives become smaller, not for lack of opportunity, but because of the invisible walls built by fear itself. People often overestimate the risk of action and underestimate the risk of stagnation. We fear losing what we have, so we cling tightly to our familiar safe zone. But the irony is that time continues to pass. Life does not stand still with us. While we are trying to avoid all danger, precious years quietly disappear. At some point, what many regret most is not their failures, but the times they lacked the courage to try. Imagine a ship built incredibly strong and anchored forever in port. It will avoid storms, avoid big waves, and avoid all collisions. But a ship is not built to sit forever in port. Its value is only revealed when it sets sail. Humans are the same. We are not born merely to preserve existence. We are born to experience, to learn, to love, to create, and to grow through the collisions of life. No one can bargain to avoid it. Therefore, if the sole goal of life is to make it safely to death, then that is a goal everyone will eventually achieve. The real question is not whether we reach the destination, but how we have lived on that journey. Those who live fully are not those who do not know fear. They still feel anxious, still face doubt and insecurity like anyone else. The difference is they do not let fear decide for them. They understand that everything of value in life comes with some level of risk. Love can lead to hurt, but not loving leads to loneliness. Dreams can lead to failure, but not pursuing dreams leads to regret. Taking a leap can make us stumble, but standing still forever ensures we will never know how far we could go. Absolute safety is often an illusion. The most beautiful life does not lie in avoiding all risks, but in daring to step out of self-imposed limits to discover our own capabilities. What makes a life meaningful is not how many challenges they protected themselves from, but how many experiences they bravely embraced. A life lived to the fullest will have scratches, stumbles, and pains, but it is also a life full of color, full of stories, and full of meaning. And looking back on that journey, we will realize that the goal was not to reach the end completely intact, but to have truly lived through every path we crossed.